Tonight's story begins with a girl no one ever paid attention to. 17-year-old Amara James, the quiet babysitter who blended into the background like a piece of forgotten furniture. To most people, she was just the help, invisible, replaceable. But, as you're about to find out, sometimes the person you underestimate the most is the one standing between you and disaster. Amara had been babysitting for the Prestons for over a year, and the Prestons, well, they were the type of family that believed money made them untouchable. Mr. Preston owned 3 real estate companies. Mrs. Preston, a pristine socialite, treated her designer bags with more tenderness than she treated her children. And when it came to Amara, she saw her as nothing more than a cheap convenience. But Amara didn't complain. She needed the job. Her father was ill, and she was determined to help keep the family afloat. So, when the Prestons told her they'd be going out of town for the weekend, leaving her to watch 6-year-old Lily and 9-year-old Drew, she accepted immediately. Still, something about the way Mrs. Preston said, "Don't go into our bedroom under any circumstances," made Amara's stomach twist. It wasn't a warning. It was a command dipped in accusation, as if she already expected Amara to steal. But Amara wasn't a thief. She was a survivor, and survivors notice things. The first sign that something was wrong appeared the moment the Preston's car disappeared down the road. As the children settled in to watch a movie, Amara heard a sound, soft, deliberate, coming from upstairs, a footstep, then another. Slow, heavy, nothing like a child's. Goosebumps crawled down her arms, but when she checked the rooms, everything seemed normal. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Hours passed. The children fell asleep, and just when Amara exhaled, thinking the night would finally quiet down, she saw it, a light flickering under the Prestons' bedroom door. No one was supposed to be in there. Her heart pounded. She remembered the strict warning, "Don't go into our bedroom." But now that warning felt less like instruction and more like a threat. Summoning courage, Amara crept toward the door. The floorboards whined under her feet. She pushed the door open just 2 inches, just enough to see, and that's when she froze. A figure, tall, hooded, stood in front of the Prestons' open safe. Papers were scattered across the floor, cash stuffed into a black bag, and in the corner, a handgun. The intruder turned, their eyes locked, and Amara realized something chilling. The person robbing the house wasn't a stranger. It was Mr. Preston's older brother. Craig, recently released from jail, banned from the property, and known for his violent temper. Craig smirked. "Didn't think anyone would be here," he whispered. "But lucky me. Now I don't have to leave witnesses." Amara's throat tightened. Her mind spun. She couldn't run to the children. Craig was too close. She needed a plan. Fast. So she did the only thing an underdog could do. She played weak. "I won't tell anyone," she whispered. "Take what you want. Just don't hurt the kids." Craig paused. Predators loved fear, and Amara gave him just enough to let him underestimate her. He grabbed her wrist, forcing her into the room. "You're coming with me until I'm done. Try anything," and he waved the gun. But what Craig didn't know was that Amara had already slipped, her phone into her back pocket. Recording, live streaming, broadcasting, everything to the cloud. Craig turned back to the safe, and in that single distracted second, Amara moved. She grabbed the nearest heavy object, the glass jewelry box, and smashed it against his arm. The gun clattered to the floor. Craig lunged, grabbing her by the hoodie, yanking her backward. Amara clawed at his grip, gasping for air. He slammed her against the wall. "You think you're a hero?" he snarled. But then, footsteps. Tiny ones. "Amara, Lily's voice drifted from the hallway. Craig's eyes widened with rage. That was the moment Amara's fear turned into fire. "Run, Lily," she screamed. Craig spun toward the child, but Amara threw herself at him, knocking him off balance. They crashed to the ground. He grabbed the gun again, but Amara kicked it under the dresser. Craig struck her across the face. Pain exploded through her jaw, but she refused to stop. Not while the children were in danger. Downstairs, she heard the front door fly open. Sirens screamed. Heavy boots thundered up the stairs. Craig froze. And then, police officers tackled him to the ground. Amara collapsed against the wall, shaking. The officers cuffed Craig, dragging him out as he shouted, "You ruined everything." But Amara wasn't listening. She was holding Lily and Drew, whispering that everything was okay now. The officers later told her that the live stream from her phone had auto-sent to her emergency contacts, and one of those contacts was her father. He had called the police the moment he saw what was happening. Amara had saved the children. She had exposed Craig. She had protected a home that had never protected her. But justice wasn't done yet, because when the Prestons returned, they didn't thank her. They didn't hug her. They didn't even ask if she was injured. Instead, Mrs. Preston narrowed her eyes and said, "Why were you in our bedroom?" Amara stared at her, speechless. "Your brother-in-law nearly killed your children. And you violated our privacy," Mrs. Preston snapped. "We'll be discussing legal consequences." That was when Amara understood. Some powerful people would rather blame the innocent than admit their own failures. But she wasn't powerless anymore. She still had the live stream, the recording, the evidence the Prestons desperately wished didn't exist. And she had one final, terrifying discovery she hadn't told them yet. Because in the safe, before Craig attacked her, Amara had seen something dangerous. And it wasn't money. It was documents. Documents with other people's names, addresses, and bank information. Amara realized the Prestons weren't victims at all. They were criminals, and Craig wasn't robbing them. He was exposing them. But the world didn't know that. Not yet. As Amara walked out of the Preston house for the last time, her bruised face lit only by the street lamp, she whispered to herself, "This isn't over, because what Amara found in that safe will change everything." For most people, surviving a violent break-in would be the chapter they try to forget. But for Amara James, it was the beginning of a truth she could no longer ignore. The bruises on her face were healing, but what she discovered inside the Prestons' safe was still burning in her mind. Documents, account numbers, names of elderly victims, and a transaction trail that pointed straight to the Prestons and beyond. When the Prestons returned and threatened her instead of thanking her, Amara knew their anger wasn't about the broken door or the police tape still hanging from their staircase. Their fear came from something much deeper. They were hiding a crime, and they knew Amara had seen it. The next morning, Detective Rojas called Amara into the station, not to interrogate her, but to protect her. He closed the door, lowered his voice, and said the words that made her world shift. "Amara, your live stream showed more than you think." He pulled out the evidence she mentioned, the documents she saw scattered on the floor during the struggle with Craig. But what the detectives had uncovered in the hours since was far more disturbing than anything Amara expected. The Prestons weren't being robbed. They were being exposed. For years, the Prestons had been part of a quiet but profitable financial ring, targeting elderly residents across the state, fake charities, shell companies, forged signatures. They weren't the victims of a criminal. They were the criminals. And Craig, the violent, unpredictable older brother they all despised. He was trying to stop them. Detective Rojas continued. Craig discovered the scheme months ago, when he tried to confront his brother They framed him and cut him off. He only came back because someone reached out to him. Someone who had been watching the same suspicious money patterns. Amara frowned, confused. Who? Rojas looked at her gently. Your father. Her heart stopped. Her father, the quiet, sick man she worked so hard to support, had seen the signs long before anyone else. As a former financial auditor, he recognized the red flags instantly and reported them. But with the Prestons' connections, his warnings disappeared into silence. So he took one last chance. He contacted Craig Preston, someone desperate enough to listen. Amara felt a wave of emotion, fear, pride, disbelief wash over her. All this time, she thought she was protecting her father, but he was protecting everyone else. The investigation moved swiftly. For once, the powerful couldn't hide behind wealth. With Amara's live stream showing, Craig trying to collect evidence, not steal, and the financial records. Confirming the Prestons' crimes, police executed a full raid on the Preston home. Mr. and Mrs. Preston were arrested on charges ranging from identity theft to elder exploitation to fraud. Reporters swarmed their mansion as they were handcuffed, their perfect image shattered under stadium lights and camera flashes. Amara watched from across the street, bruised but unbroken. Mrs. Preston glared at her as she was placed in the squad car. "This is your fault," she hissed. For the first time, Amara didn't shrink. "No," she said softly. "This is justice." Craig, cleared of wrongdoing, was released. He approached Amara and her father days later, awkward, unsure, remorseful. "I wasn't supposed to scare you," he said quietly. "I just needed proof, and I didn't think anyone would be home." Amara studied him for all his roughness, for all the chaos he brought into her life. His truth was simple. He wanted to do the right thing, even if he did it the wrong way. She nodded. "Just don't ever bring violence into a house with kids again." He lowered his head. "You have my word." The investigation stretched into weeks. Victims were contacted. Families were reimbursed. And for the first time in a long time, Amara felt the weight on her chest begin to lift. Then came the moment she didn't expect. A community organization, the very one her father once tried to warn, invited her to speak at a small gathering. They called her the babysitter, who brought down a fraud empire. Her father sat in the front row, pride shining through tired eyes. Amara stepped up to the podium, palms trembling, not from fear, but from the realization that she wasn't invisible anymore. "I was taught that the world is divided into powerful people and powerless people," she said. "But that night taught me something different. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one nobody sees coming." Her voice steadied. "And sometimes justice doesn't start with a badge or a courtroom. It starts with someone ordinary, refusing to look away." The crowd rose to their feet in applause. When Amara stepped off the stage, her father hugged her with the strength he had left. "You didn't just save those kids," he whispered. "You saved me." Outside, the evening air was cool and quiet. The danger was over. The story was finished. Amara wasn't the invisible babysitter anymore. She was the girl who uncovered the truth and faced it. And for once, the world saw her clearly.